up, guys? Rideshare guy here, and today I've got a video for you about should you accept a long trip? Now, this is actually a topic that I've been asked about a few times now, and we had a little discussion over in the our video training course, Maximum Ride Sharing Profits. I talked to a few students about this and, recorded some videos, and this is one of the things we talk about. So if you haven't checked out that course, definitely recommend giving it a shot. And we also just added some new case studies, which are really cool. I interviewed 3 drivers about kind of some different topics, and, we have affiliate program and new videos, so definitely head over there. I'll leave a link below in the show notes. But as far as the actual question, about accepting long trips. The reason why this is now an issue, because in the past, long trips were no-brainers, right? I mean, you could make a lot of money from one long trip. You can make a lot more from one long trip than a bunch of short rides. And these days, with lower rates, it's not so much of a no-brainer anymore, right? You can still make good money on long rides, but it's almost like you don't want them to be too long. And, back in the day, obviously there were longer wait times, right? So you'd have more downtime and obviously higher rates too. So that kind of the combination of those two things made those long trips super profitable, right? These days, things have changed, and this industry in general is always changing, so you need to adapt your strategies accordingly. And remember the first thing, as a driver, you always have the right to cancel a trip, end a trip early, or not accept a trip, right? If anything's like, if it's an unsafe situation, you want to still do it smartly, right? You don't want to just drop someone off on the side of the freeway if they're being a total jerk, but situations do come up. And so you always have that right as an independent contractor and a driver for Uber. Now, if it's like a legal issue and you're kicking out someone because of their race or ethnicity or handicap or anything like that, obviously you can't do that. That's kind of a no-brainer. And then if you start doing this type of stuff too much, like canceling trips and not accepting trips, obviously you might run into problems with Uber. But if it's once in a while, you always kind of have that right. So let's say the situation kind of comes up and you get this request for a super long ride. Let's say it's like an hour plus, 1 to 2 hours. The things that I usually consider are, first off, is it the beginning or end of your shift, right? I mean, if it's the beginning or kind of even the middle of your shift, it's really not as big of a deal to get a super long ride, because you'll get that long ride, go out to some new area, you'll find some new area, you'll drive there, you'll get a bunch of rides out there, and you can kind of spread out all the miles that you're gonna have to drive back over a longer period of time, right? Instead of having to drive an hour out and then drive an hour back, you drive out for an hour, drive around for 4 to 5 hours, and then you drive out for an hour back. So you're really able to spread those unpaid, or what we call deadhead miles, out over a longer period of time. So that's kind of the first thing I would consider. If it's the end of your shift though, let's say you need to be back to go to sleep or see your kids or go home, that's where it starts to get a little bit sticky, and it's really kind of up to you. That's when you may want to actually consider canceling that trip, or you can cancel and not charge that rider. And I think just the way you explain it obviously matters, right? If you legitimately have something to be back for, or you need to get up early for your other job, or whatever the reason, I think a lot of passengers would understand, because most rides are in that 10 to 20 minute range. So when you do get that random one at a really bad time, I think you always have the right to cancel a trip. So definitely just keep that in mind. And the thing that really matters is just in general, you kind of want to consider your deadhead miles. And deadhead miles are the miles if you were driving back home without a passenger. It's basically unpaid time, right? Time when you're without a passenger, because obviously those miles, not only are you not getting paid, but they're also costing you, right? There's a cost to operate your vehicle. And so that's why it's really important to kind of minimize those dead miles. And whenever you do a long trip, you always have to think of the probability of getting a ride back home. Unfortunately, it's usually pretty low, right? I know I've talked to some drivers who've kind of figured out a system where they know that if they're hanging out a certain area, the good percentage or good chance that they'll get a ride back headed into their house. But not every driver lives in those kind of natural traffic patterns and can do it like that. I'd say most drivers probably don't. Whenever I've been out driving and I'm trying to be I want to get one more ride headed in my direction home, it never works. And I always just end up either the same distance away or even further away. So it's definitely a struggle. It's definitely a problem. I definitely know why this issue is being asked and why it's coming up. But Uber is testing a fair destination filter. Lyft has a destination filter right now that's only on Lyft line rides, and frankly, it doesn't really work that well because there's just not enough matches in the cities where it is. But I actually am pretty excited, and I hope that Uber rolls out this destination filter soon to everyone. because basically what it does is it matches you with riders headed in the same direction, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you're like an hour away from your home, you have to drive back anyways. I would almost even be willing to do it for less money too, but hopefully Uber doesn't doesn't take that idea from me, because I'll definitely be happy if they install it and still pay me the same amount. So, that's kind of like a wait and see. Hopefully it'll be out sooner rather than later. But, so this kind of video, hopefully it helps you with kind of thinking about those long trips in general and whether or not you should take them, and just understanding kind of the cost of operating and, profitability in general. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to leave a comment below. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and look forward to hearing from you guys soon. All right, take care.